That's going to be crazy.
Well, I just was like,
I mean, look, there's Sandy going to be there, and Paul Terry, it's an introvert.
Kills on your translation. Yeah. It's basically the functional craft. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Me and Alan had it out now. Oh, God, 2009. I know this because they gave us a tissue. Your letter in 2009 was and we were just too much for them. They just being friendly with us. And she needs to get on again. They come out to us.
It's changed. It's changed.
Yeah.
Because Stephanie's and then I also shared his response. And I asked him to do it. And sadly, they've got more skills. That's good.
Yeah.
They wouldn't look at me with them. No, they wouldn't.
I looked at them, my God, that's going to be a problem. I interviewed him. Where's he at?
Geraldine Monk is talking as usual. And shall we start? Lovely to see you all. This is the final Center for Poetry and Poetics event for the spring reading series. And I'm very vain, you know.
I'm just doing the reverse of what you've been doing to all of us. Sorry. Just one more thing. It kind of is part of the event. So the very final event will be the Sheffield Review launch, which is poetry, prose. What else is in there? Non-fiction?
Yes.
Non-fiction?
I just said prose and that can include everything.
Yeah, experimental work and things like that.
Words.
And the Sheffield Review is actually, some of you will remember, is the kind of new name for Route 57, which is the creative writing journal for the whole university, but actually run by the School of English, but actually also run by students, School of English students. So this will be a launch on the 4th of June. If anybody would like to come, that would be awesome. It's really lovely to see our students. I'm explaining this to our guests. So we've got here creative writers mostly. This is the creative writing community. So we've got level 2 students, level 3 students who are finishing in about a couple of weeks. We've got MA students, yay. We've got PhD students. And we've got alumni, so people who come back or kind of still float in the indecisiveness of what to do, and kind of deliberating, doing a PhD and all sorts. And of course, we've got guests from the city as well, fellow writers such as Geraldine and other lovely people. Emma Press, Brian. I don't know what's going on with me. Shall I just get going? I'm actually really happy today because the 2 guests we've got today for this final event are really good, not only fellow writers, but beautiful friends. So I'm going to introduce, first of all, I'd like to welcome a huge warm welcome to Kimberly Campanello and Sascha Akhtar. They will be reading in this order. We're not going to have a break, just so you know the schedule. And each will be reading for about 20-ish minutes. But when I say 20-ish minutes, it can mean anything, literally. I will leave it.
I will leave it to our guests. The other thing I wanted to say is that, and that is part of the gig, is that we've got beautiful books here. This is our little bookshelf or bookstore. So we've got books by both Sascha and Kimberly, and not only that, but this is it, isn't it? This is this is like literally freshly out of the print or press or print or whatever, kind of April publication. But I'm hoping that anything that's on this table, writers will explain. So what we do normally is that at the end of the readings, please don't vanish, because this will be, especially for our students or anybody really, to have an opportunity. I'm sorry, guys, you won't be just finished with the reading. You've got an extra little task, which is to conduct this sort of awkward mingling with anybody who would like to buy your books and talk about it. So that will be a final little thing at the very end. Socials, antisocial socials. And finally, the dinner, whoever is coming, is at about 8 o'clock. So we've got still a few spaces left. Adam is ill today, so he's sending his apologies. He's got a horrible bug.
Will that be awkward as well?
What?
Dinner.
The dinner is not.
Yeah, I was just as interested.
That is the fun part. I'm gonna get going. I'm actually reading 2 biographies here as introduction, but obviously you will hear some intros from the poets as well. I'm gonna kick off with Kimberly Campanello, who is the author of the poetry object and durational performance Mother Baby Home. I don't need to introduce the text to some of my creative writers, but if you remember, guys, this is the artist book or book object project, which came out by Zimzala in 2019, and it's got an amazing sort of recording of the actual reading of it, which lasts about 3 hours. So I normally introduce that to MA students. Obviously, we couldn't ever finish it, but the text is known by some of our creative writers. Kimberly is also the inaugural Markievicz Award winner from Ireland's Arts Council and the Department of Culture, Heritage. And the Geldtacht for Swan States, which was a 2024 publication by Savage Press. And this was with Dimitri Xydes and Anna Marini Koran. And also an Arts Council Ireland Literature Project Award winner for Sorry That You Were Not Moved, a 2022 publication. This was an interactive digital poetry publication conversation with Italo Calvino's Invisible Cities, which we also have on the reading list. And not only that, but a collaboration with Christodoulos Makris and Fallow Media. Kimberly's next poetry collection, I actually must autopsy it. I call it autopsy. Because anyway, I'm not going to go into great detail why I call it autopsy. So this is, in many ways, I'm just going to like sort of point out that an interesting detail, let me see, this is the latest and most recent collection by Bloomsbury Press or publishing house, and came out in 2025. So I think we could say that this is your Sheffield launch.
Yeah, I think it is.
Shall we say that?
Yes,
Shall we make it a launch?
yes. And Sasha, this is your Sheffield launch as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah.
So which one is yours?
Mine is a reprint of, it's the second edition.
Fresh blurbs though, I did fresh. Good one.
Yeah. No, it's definitely launches for multiple things, to be honest.
So there's lots of blurbs here. I'm not gonna read it, but I'm just hoping that you guys are gonna buy the book because that's why they are here. So that is today's one of the major causes for celebration. And then we haven't finished quite here because Kimberly is unstoppable at the moment. Aren't
This
you?
is gold work. This was in a drawer.
Okay.
Yeah, I was excited.
So on the other hand, in June, which is in about a month, or literally in about 2 weeks' time, there will be a novel coming out.
It's that purple one there.
So you've got already a copy.
Yeah.
So it's out.
You can pre-order with that QR code.
So it's almost like a sort of
Yeah, it's a
double launch.
Yeah.
Bloody
I
hell.
think we come back. I just come back.
And a northern launch.
I think come back for the prosers. There's even a blurb.
Okay, are you gonna read from that too? Or? No.
I wasn't planning on it, but we'll take maybe.
It would be, you know what, I'm quite interested and I didn't know about this, but it would be quite nice if you could say a few words about it because I didn't know that you write prose.
Yeah.
Is this prose?
You almost can't say it. Yeah.
Where is Claire?
Apologies like that as well. Yeah. I'll see what I can do.
Yes, at least say a few words because I'm actually quite shocked. Sorry, Claire. So that is a novel that's kind of out, but not quite yet out. And it's from some such editions, yeah. And this will be out or on its way out. An imprint, and this is interesting, of BAFTA and Oscar-winning production company, Some Such. And not only that, can I say anything about? No.
What are we saying?
The translation, no.
What translation? Oh yeah, Dante.
Okay, and not only that, but Kimberly at the moment or currently is in a mega huge translation project, and it is important to mention this because who knows, but we might have a series next year on translation and experimental translation, and if so, yeah, we don't know yet.
I hope you can.
But you know what? Even if we might still do it anyway in one way or another. So Kim is translating Dante at the moment, just sort of marginally to mention that small project indeed, and also professor of poetry at the University of Leeds. I hope everything is going better than here. Right, I shouldn't have said that. I haven't finished yet. I haven't quite finished because what I'll do is I'm not going to introduce the poets separately. I'm just going to introduce it in one go so you don't have to listen to me ever again. Sascha Akhtar is the author of 7 books of poetry.
9 now.
Oh, sorry.
Not sure.
This is sort of speed writing, you guys, or?
We're both quite relentless, I'm realizing.
And restless and reckless. So our next reckless writer, who is now produced 9 books, just between me having started this evening and this introduction. Anyway, poetry and one piece of fiction. Sascha is a translator, but also creative writing lecturer at the University of Greenwich. She's been performing her work for about 20 years. highlights include, there's a whole list here, but just to mention a few I can actually pronounce. Poetry Wales Festival, Emirates Festival of Literature in Rotterdam. That's all. The latest writings appear in several journals: Fugitives and Futurists, Shuddasar, Deleuzine, Rivista International, Prototype, Annual 4, Cut Purse, and also of Myths and Mothers, which was an anthology, and also on Lucy Writers platform. Sascha's debut book of translations from Urdu Belles-Lettres, the writing of Hijab Imtiaz, was a publication which came out by Oxford University Press and received an honorable mention for the 2024 Ramanujan Prize for book translations from South Asian languages into English. Her latest social theory in the form of radical visual forms was launched October 23 at the Small Publishers Fair. The manuscript itself is currently, or is this already?
It's on the table.
All right, it's on the table. So why do I have an outdated?
I don't know. I thought I'd send it to you.
Intergraphia Press.
Intergraphia.
Is this? Oh my God.
Yes, she's here. She
Oh,
brought the book.
Did you not know I was into graphic? You didn't?
I did, but I didn't put the two together. Where is it?
That one in your hand. That one.
Can I have one? So, all right, it's all coming together.
Okay.
So, Intergraphia Press is Emma.
Yes.
Okay.
And Rachel.
Emma and Rachel.
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah.
Just to show it to the online audience as well as you guys.
Dream come true.
I'm actually jealous.
Unfold the poster in the middle.
It's like my teenage dream for a fold-out poster.
All right, rub it in.
Yeah.
Ooh. I might nick a copy.
Aggie's excited now.
I'm really excited. So, are you going to be able to talk a little bit about it when you?
Yeah, sure.
So that's the mysterious manuscript that's actually out with Intergraphia. So it's not a manuscript anymore.
Right.
It's a publication.
Yes. Now
Yeah. And then Grimoire of Grimalkin.
Yes.
Are you gonna say no? Was published in a second edition by Prototype Publishers in October 2024, and it's got a very nice blurb as well. Just read the blurb, right?
Yeah.
So there's lots to indulge in today. This is it from me. Have fun. And welcome to the online
So are they going to be
audience.
looking at me like right in the face? Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm just going to check if you're going to be in the recording now. It's the first thing.
It's a bit upchin.
Yeah, well, you can. You're better at technology than I am. Oh, and water.
Thank you. Thank you, Aggie, for the extensive introduction. I hope that gives you a sense of what you might be in store for. I'm not sure. So it's really great to be back at Sheffield because I think one of the greatest poetry readings I've ever done was here. And that was with Sascha and Sarah Hayden and Geraldine was there and many faces were here. And so it's really great to be back. I've wanted to be back many times, but my health has not allowed it. So here I am, and I'm going to get into it while the going is good. And yeah. An interesting detail in the history of this church involves 813 martyrs' skulls embedded in the chapel wall. The glass covering was added in the mid-20th century to shield the skulls from dust and thereby save on labor costs. I've written about this before, but you may or may not have noticed it in my files. It pertains to the cheekbones of the martyrs and the significance of their height and prominence. The cheekbones are reaching for the stars, one might say, and consistently so. The prominence of the mind or the head in the abiding orientation of Western thought may have something to do with the fact that it takes so long for the skull to decay, particularly in dry climates, where so much, over the years, so much civilization has plunged its crusted root into the earth again and again. Imagine how different everything would be if the womb was visible to us in the first place, and if it could resist the rot and hold its shape for hundreds or even thousands of years. Notably, in one of the 3 forests mentioned in the tale, you will find a cafe selling paninis and paper in paper wrappers and water in plastic bottles. The child blows his whistle continuously, and no one will try and stop him. This probably relates to the rampant drug use in the city in recent times, and the way in which one is encouraged to walk on by. I, for one, noticed her cheekbones slicing cold air from beneath hood and hair. So, as Aggie said, these are prose poems. They're not, it's not a novel. And I think for those of you who know about Mother Baby Home, all the words are kind of scattered and broken up, and it's a visual poem. So when I finished with that, I decided I didn't know what a line was. I didn't know what a phrase was. I didn't know what a word was. So I just started writing squares of different sizes in a voice that was trying to figure out what a poem was, what a lyric was, what a beautiful sound was like, and whether a beautiful sound could indeed be made, which is a question that many poets ask a lot of the time. So hence this sort of meandering voice that, I think I'll read the receipt. So all the poems slightly have kind of Seinfeld television show titles, in that they sort of frame it in a way that, well, you'll find out. I'll just read it to you. How about that? Receipt. One remarkable item found with a man buried near where I used to live turned out to be a whistle made from a carved and highly polished human thigh bone. Dating suggests it belonged to someone who lived around the same time as him. To bring you up to speed on this, I'm certain they could squeeze me in here among the greats. It's what I want. It's important to let people know your wishes in advance, especially kids who have never made pilgrimages like this one, though they live nearby, and express an interest in surpassing rudimentary notions of suffering and reason. The shells at the base of certain walls can either be seen as detritus or decoration, reminiscent of a cake that shoots memory through your body, and is itself reminiscent of a body we feel it is important to keep nearby, but not to approach at all times. Just as we manage saints, disarticulating them and placing them in boxes and dotting them around the world, awaiting special exposure. Or a duck that has been cooked a certain way to allow it to collapse in on itself until we are ready to release it from its can for eating. I feel like I really miss her, and I never even met her in person. The simplicity of her initials carved there is really strong for me. I've thought a lot about it, and I appreciate you taking this information forward to spread among interested parties. I'm just going to slide my pencil here in this pot and hope for the best. You might want to place a stone or a slip of paper, like a receipt. So everybody has a grandmother poem, right? Grandmother's hands poem. Yeah.
Not hands, but yeah.
Somebody has written a grandmother poem. This is not a grandmother poem. This is a poem about a grandmother's platter, called The Old Platter. The Old Platter. We brought out one of my grandmother's old platters at dinner last night. The green ceramic platter used on Sundays. We all know her story, so I don't need to elaborate here. I was instantly reminded of my nomadic clinging to places and people, and the way that dishes are sadly the last thing you'd think of bringing along on a major move these days, even though they did once feature in ship burials due to their symbolic and familial significance. The burials and hoards you find dotted around show this phenomenon very well. There's money and armor, of course, and jewelry, but also textiles and shoes, very well preserved. On top of all that, there is a huge platter with stamps that show it was a century old when buried and had been made in the capital of a distant empire. So then you have the scrolling poems, the Instagram poems. That, you know, you buy the same clothes because they look like you. Right. Simple tunic. I'm not wearing a simple tunic tonight. I changed, once I wrote this poem, I didn't wear that anymore. Literally, I think that's what not exonerated, expunged. I am exonerated from wearing a simple tunic. I always wear the same simple tunic. I always pair it with the same PVC leggings. I think that's what I was wearing the last time I was here, actually. I always wear the same simple tunic. I always pair it with the same PVC leggings. The tunic and leggings slip through my letterbox, and I slip them on. They always fit. I am shown the tunic and leggings all day and all night. That's me there, I think. That's me without a head, wearing the tunic. My skin tone shifts. My hands on my hips de-age. No more baggy knuckles. On the other hand, near the castle they have found skeletons. Isotopic testing of the teeth shows a diversity of genetic origins and time spent abroad, eating in Spain, North Africa, and so on. The sea washed away the shore, and these so-called bowl hole burials were held up as examples. Bodies placed face down, bodies curled up on their sides, bodies supine on their backs. The meaning of these varied customs is a matter for debate. In a similar manner, it's in doubt whether hair that accumulates in your drain should be put in the toilet and flushed away or tossed in the bin. Contact lenses should not be flushed. That much is clear. Anybody who's been on the internet knows what that poem's suggesting, right? What the hell? Okay. The freezer. I should also mention I have meat shame. If you examine the trays, you can probably tell which ones are for meat. No holes for ceiling. And which ones are for fruit and veg? Air holes for breathing. I have emptied one of the big meat trays of its meat, separated pieces into various plastic bags, and put them in the freezer to stop time. It stops. Actually, it slows time. That's why, from time to time, and more so especially now, tourists and climbers come across ancient time-stopped bodies in the colder regions. They are very well preserved, and we can examine what they wore, such as their shoes, which are quite complex and indicative of the existence of the cobbler profession. We can remove their stomachs and intestines to see and smell their last meals, like ibex meat or chamois meat and red deer meat and herb bread. So you see, I'm like obsessed with dead bodies and archaeology.
Yeah.
It's clear, isn't it? Some of you in the back are like, oh boy, can she not read about Okay, well, this one mentions Morrissey. Okay. It's called, and it's an eco poem. And those are really easy to write, right? Eco poems. They're just ubiquitous, right? It's like simple eco poem. So simple. I used to check rudimentary online mail that came from New York City from the profile name Bleecker Poet, who was actually Gustave Charpentier's great-grandson. We sent each other poems and pictures of Morrissey. Now anything and everything to do with Morrissey belongs in the landfill, along with plastic cups that Harry and Sally drank from. Remember that movie, Harry and Sally? It's an old one, right? Harry and Sally had bumped into each other at the airport and ended up talking on the plane. It was pre-recycling and post-handcrafted. John Dewey warned us, the sun is a burnished orb, like our popcorn popper, that plugged into the wall on Hunter's Court. One time it started smoking. Weed killer is called Roundup. The people at the borders are always nearby. The plastic cups in the scene from the film are eternity. It takes far, far longer and many, many more arguments to refurb the visitor center at the Passage Tomb than to build the Passage Tomb itself. The sun is a burnished orb, except now we are less responsive to it, even at equinox. We hold our talismans and our scribbled notes and burn plants with no cultural significance for us. It turns out popcorn interferes with or leads to the development of polyps. It's no surprise that at Thanksgiving, we wish we had never happened upon the world. So
That is not a simple.
it's not a simple eco poem.
That's why the introduction.
So one of the poems that's in here that I won't do, because it's a bit like Mother Baby Home in that it's a kind of a intense emotional journey performance, is Moving Nowhere Here, which is my poem about being diagnosed with Parkinson's. So, Parkinson's is a movement disorder, which causes you to have difficulty moving. And I'm obviously playing on the words moving nowhere here, but it's a long sequence. So that one has line breaks, and the voice in that one, I would say, because Aggie's asked me to kind of tell you what the hell is going on in this person's writing. But I would say that the voice in that is what kind of ruptures into what becomes my translation of Dante. So by the time I journeyed from Mother Baby Home through these prose boxes where I'm kind of questioning, epistemology, sort of empire, colonialism, all this, the isms of the world, which actually have very real experiential sort of affects and effects, I end up, being diagnosed with a disease that's quite likely caused by environmental factors, pesticides, namely, which are actually weapons, and that is how they were invented. So, So my Dante translation, this is not a book that you can buy. I've just printed it like this, like a dork, so that I can read it more easily. So The way, so the people online, the way I've translated Dante is what I'm calling a versioning. So each section has, in a kind of a medieval way, in the medieval times, people would write a little summary in front of a piece of writing. And then sometimes they'd even comment upon their own work, or they would have other people comment on their work. So the commentary tradition on Dante is massive. Everybody's had something to say about him. But equally, when you get an edition of Dante, there's usually a little paragraph at the beginning that says, this is what this is about. So I'm playing off of that. So my argumento is actually an argument, because I just, it's argumento in Italian. And then the canto is singing, right, as a canto. So the actual kind of translation. And then the commento is the adventures of the poet K. So the poet K, the backstory of the poet K is in that novel. So that's like Clark Kent. This is like Superman. Okay, so that's the teenager in the Midwest in America. Unlike Clark Kent having sexy times in France, this is Superman who has suffered, died metaphorically, and risen again in fulfillment of comic book scripture to translate Dante, because we're facing all the things that we know we're facing right now. Because Dante's at a cusp, culturally, intellectually, and otherwise. Now, I also argue with Dante quite a lot in this. So I'm going to ask, what do you want to hear? Because I've got a lot of cantos done. Do you want to hear a poem about sex and reading and knowledge? That's the canto one. Do you want to hear a poem about sort of inequality and environment and paradise and beauty? Do you want to hear a canto that is about climbing a giant hill? Which one?
Either one or two.
Number sex and, this is a university, right? That's why we like knowledge and we like desire, right?
And the environment. Giant hill.
Maybe I can try to end with a chunk of the giant hill, because it's a concrete poem that looks like a little foot. So I could probably end with that. So, okay. So Inferno 5 in Dante is Paolo and Francesca. Does anybody know what that canto is about? Has anybody read? Am I the only person who's read Dante in the room?
No.
Okay. We just don't remember which is which.
You just can't reference them.
No. Because I'm obsessed. Okay.
Yeah.
So Inferno 5, Paolo and Francesca, they're in hell for reading, because they fall in love with each other, because you're nodding like you know what I'm talking about. So they fall in love because, and he's her brother's husband, right? So they're in hell because of their desire that crossed this line. But Dante is quite nice to them because they're kind of swirled up in this whirlwind forever, eternity. And then Francesca comes out and tells this story, which is actually, because Dante, it's not like a hierarchical thing, even though it seems like it is. He's kind of like, I kind of get it, guys, because it was actually the book that led them to do this. It was the desire for knowledge. It was the desire for all the things that a book can give you. So it's a kind of big metaphor, but also not. It's got a lot of problematic ideas in it around sex and gender, and also knowledge, even the way it's described. And the way I've done my translation of Dante is not to tell you this guy's Trump and that guy's that guy, this guy's that bishop, or because he put popes in hell before they were dead, So it was like really, he kind of invented fantasy, invented these whole genres of things to do. So I'm not going to do that, in part because a lot of people have done that. But I've lyricized Dante. So it's all from the point of view of I and you and me and whatever. So I'm using a lot of pronouns, but I'm not naming names. But the only thing that I do is I say where I am when I'm doing this canto. Wherever I happen to be inflects that discussion. So for this one, I happen to be at the Museum of the History of Medicine in Paris, which is where a lot of really messed up stuff happened because of the way that they use people as human subjects, especially women or people from from at the time what they saw as colonial possessions. And they also totally objectified people who were suffering and then made them suffer more and said, very interesting. So when you go to this museum, you see a lot of the objects that are to do with that. And one of the things that I saw, and I accidentally went there, I just walked in like, oh, I've never been in this building. But one of the things you see is a giant painting of Charcot. And Charcot was the neurologist who discovered Tourette's, Parkinson's, and all of these things, and was trying to figure out what's the difference between a psychological disorder and a physical disorder. Well, and then also he was obsessed with women fainting. So you get the famous painting. If you just Google Charcot painting, you'll see one of his quote subjects fainting. And then it's also Shakespeare & Co. Paris, because I happened to bump into a writer with Parkinson's at Shakespeare & Co. in Paris, and he happens to have been the author of the book Intertextuality, Graham Allen. We bumped into each other in the poetry section while I'm translating the canto about reading and knowledge and sex, which is inherently intertextual. Because can we have desire without having any narratives around what desire is? Good question. And then Via Principalis or Stone Gate in Eboracum, York. So the Romans get a little appearance. So this is written December 2024. I think I'm gonna have to stand up and like not look at myself in the screen. They'll be able to hear me, won't they?
Yeah, just make sure you are in the recording thing.
Yeah, I'm in the recording zone. Because this is what happens with Parkinson's. You actually have to move even though you can't move. So, Argumento. This song, this place, this move I am about to make is about reading, about bodies and knowing, about killing for knowing, about faces scraped for beautying, what boxed up bones say about boxed in options, about wind blowing, desiring. This song, this place, this move I am about to make is about reading. Here you are, doing it. Touch your gut, touch your exit, then step up and in, or get lifted. A word is a floating thing, a seed with wings. The eye has no corner to speak of. It has fluid angles blinking. Fill the little jar with keen evidence. Tears at the table made of desiccated organs, created for, gifted to an emperor. All around the place, this practice of saying no or yes, too often, too loud, not enough, touch and go, but weeping, grieving, perpetual motion, weight, hanging, heft, swinging, knowledge. That's a pendulum. Too much credit initially, not enough blame in the end. Now, in a case, now as a case, trembling, teaching, the man at the center speaking, the woman fainting. This won't hold up, I'm afraid, which means nothing specifically. A reworked pack of stories on the top shelf, the force of grasping the rail, it makes you slip again. This song, this place, this move I am about to make, here you are doing it. Touch your gut, touch your exit, then step up and in, get lifted, lift. Fuck it. Fuck them. Fuck yes. Fucking authors. Have you tried not knowing? Have you tried asking? Have you tried descending? Have you tried not trying? All these photographs, all these teeth, an early thesis, thanking mom and dad. It notes the street where it was printed, the one named for this poet. Yep, again, the people, the subjects are objects misattributed. A map is liquid, a body of water exploding, absorbing. If anything, it's more and more again about discernment, not cause and effect, absenting, omniscience. I think I have it. I think I saw it. Before these objects were lined up and captioned, all the toys disordered, teaching tying, just one knot or the same knot twice, feet grounded. Rather this than change the fastening, the closing. Rather this than tracing here and there, to me, to you, tying up with many and more, even many more times. Over. The you, me. Who is verbing? Who cannot verb? Who cannot verb either? Who used to verb, and now verbs more if verb is verbed? Who is terribly verbed? Who others cannot verb, and so verbs whenever verbing is possible? Who verbs without reason? But that is not the worst bit. Verb this, and verb again. I know. You, who, me? Who told me long ago what texts do when they enter? Never leave. They lift. You. A wind you don't need belief to ride, in which you are spinning. A floating thing, a seed with wings. Forever, verb, last, word. So the canto, which I basically skip a ton of it, as you'll find. I got there. To darker light, to tighter space, to louder grief, to sharper keen, to the tale that divides. Wind and sea sound more, say less. I note, I clench. No substance in belt tightening. Whatever you suffered, or suffer now, here it is again and again. Much worse, but beautifully said. Not so this song of mine. This time, I pull the tail. I strip off the belt. I take each thread to hand and twirl. I curse for you. I curse as cure. Whatever about bullshit power. Honor requiring murder. Exit points barred to make kings. Period piece nostalgia. Lived still. I skip over pages and lines and chill. Get a grip on my channel. I flip the tail and the belt. I braid them with the equator. I skip to here, feather to hand, a dove's, a crane's, yes, with ink. That's hope, you see. That's me. A book to read, not for fainting, not blown away. Floating, word, seed with wings. How are we on time? I have no idea.
I have no idea.
So, should I read the float?
Yeah.
So one of the things that Dante does that I quite like, I won't read that commento because it's prose. One of the things that he does is he talks about climbing all the time, which with Parkinson's, I have paradoxical kinesia, which means it's easier to do things that are hard than it is to do things that are easy. It's easier for me to climb up a steep hill. Now I can't find the foot. I don't know, what am I going to do? It's easier for me to climb up a steep hill than it is for me to walk in an airport. So the rough patch is easier somehow. And Dante kind of suggests that in a lot of what he's writing. So in Purgatorio 4, one of the things that I'm in the Argumento, which I'll read because it's shorter, and then I'll read the canto, is the Tarantella. Does anybody know what the Tarantella dance is?
Yeah.
So what's that all about? Tell me.
Well, it's they imbibe like poison in order to start quaking, and
Yeah.
it's based on tarantula.
It's come where the word tarantula, yeah. So it takes the word tarantula. It was invented in Taranto in southern Italy. And it's the kind of snaking, winding dance that they think is related to the kind of ancient gods of sort of losing your head, but also it's meant to ward off the evil eye and do all sorts of things. So we actually, in my Italian side of the family, we do this at weddings all the time and at any party. So this is set partially in that context and partially in the context of trying to climb a hill, which for me is very easy and for Dante is very hard. So I think you'll get a sense of the return of the lyric a bit and the argumentum. From here to there, so close for a crow. Down the line of the river banked by animal towns, on high, place names, patron saints, the wolf, the bull, the deer, the bear, the crone. Here, the place of the mother of the word made flesh, and back here with the doctor saint and with bull with wings. These roads are a dance that snakes and stretches all the way, a dance, a long one. We converge, reveal, pleasure pulls toward pain and the other way. A spider that bites or a bite of a fruit supposedly brought about such delirium and contraction and such distance, entrails scooped and spread for reading. We shuttle along, flying, but actually climbing up along a spine, a ridge, on an inverse cuirass, tilted. We are the scales over the flesh, the beads on the string, the weights on the threads that hang from cloth woven at once and in one story undone. At a word, we are lifted, absorbed like liquid from the bottom to top of a great pelt, whether we try or not. Language creaking with all this meing, doing and saying too much or not enough. How do we know unless we compare, and to what? It's clever, of course, to say as such again and again till the great too late comes. If I care too much, and I speak while I can, alone in a room of miscellaneous donations jumbled up in lit cases. I try a few names and take a stab at some relationships. Here, the shape of a figure dug up along the way of the herds, a line traced for so long you'd hardly believe it, arm raised, toe forward on the neck of a beast. It could be me or him, or you, or a whole division, keeping going, making a showing, a new year, to be determined. What if it? It's a good question. Are we there yet? How long will this be? Have we found it? What is the central theme? Does it have to be this long? Go so far? Stick with the planned structure? Especially if it's meant to float, to seed, to ground? Is a hem a folding over and then a suturing? Is a hem a zigzag along the edge of a single surface? Or is a hem a tassel that recollects weaving and waiting? Is fabric lined, and with what? Is this an animal cloak? Is this a chemical shield? Can this ever not be both? Why are these lines justified? The procession through the past collapsed time, and time wore on till costumes were handed back. How far is back? When was a cell? Who is free? Not yet a half of a third through. Let's make it long. Attempt all types of stitches. Cut, tear, leave some rough edges. That rub again. Pleasure, praying, principle, focusing that system we call nervous, we call soul, we call me, distracts from that what else we might bring. We are not many in one, says he, but hang on, I'm hurting. This line just shuttled by. So what do you say? Is this a fresh eye? The same me? Well, you decide. Here's another weighted vertical line. I thread that flame. It's time I wick it, flicker with it. I say. So you will one day too note power and perception, whether tied tight or loosened, brace beneath shoe, binding such climbing, hey, it's a foot. Verse, unified with sun. We all want it more and more again as grapes go purple, thorns fill gaps in vines, stop hands to mouths, tasting no matter what up I go this town. Climb, I can, as long as it's rough, close to 90. Anyway, as a floating thing, a seed with wings, at last grounded, pure joy to step, not fly, hands and knees on broken rock. Between sheer faces, I step, become expert again. Joy, climbing a path ahead, not looking at what's back then, covered behind, wherever the sunrise, whatever technical lines of time and light we call gods and creatures, I carry on circling this strong point. Here, those who rest as needed. What glory is there in mocking them? When all along, such gates, such guards, such thorns, we've placed them, blocked plenty, so much fruit and wine to share and strengthen. So I'll leave it there. That's probably enough.
It's all yours.
I wanted to ask you, is it possible to have this pointing a different direction?
Yeah.
Because
Where would you like it to
I
be?
move,
Pointing at.
like I can be here.
Do you want to sit or?
I never sit, I can't sit, that's not, it's gonna be hard.
So, are you gonna like?
Gesticulate wildly? Yeah.
Are you gonna walk around? Do you need to be like me doing this?
Well, I wouldn't, I'll do my best. Just give me that frame and I'll work with the frame.
The microphone is not expandable though, so. Right,
Well, the voice.
all
will-
yours,
the
all
voice will
yours.
carry, yeah. Hello out there, hello out there.
Right.
Thank you, Kimberly, for that extraordinary reading, as always. My things are here, one sec. Oh, she goes. It's lately I've been reading with friends who I really admire, and I find it really difficult to read with my friends because I'm so taken by their work that it sort of takes me away with it on this journey. But yes, I'm back in the room. It's a pleasure to be here amongst so many people who, for some unknown reason, have dedicated themselves to poetry. And we all teach, so that's an interesting thing. And so I'm very comfortable, knowing that you're all sort of, at those points in your life where, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I mean, when I started, this is the thing is, why poetry? Why do we do this? But here I am, it's 20 years later. And what's interesting is that this book of mine, I wrote this just before I started my MFA in poetry in 2007. And this is out in a second edition. So that's a sort of mad leap that I was never aware may happen, because this book took me so many places, to being called verbal vomit by an editor, to being privy to the White Boys Club that I was in for my MFA, which was fatal for me in many ways. What is this, a dictionary poem? I remember somebody saying that to me. Then I remember being like madly submitting work as you do in those days. And I had no clue about this magazine that I had submitted work from the Grimoire to. And I suddenly get an email saying, we love it, we want to publish these poems, and I'm inviting you to Harvard for a reading. right? And so it turns out the chap who was running this, who is now, by the way, the head of the Department of French Culture and Thought at NYU, at the time he was a student, I didn't know he was running a reading series there. There was a lot of racism in America, which I was not fully aware of, but it came out in weird ways in the MFA where I just mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be doing a reading. And they didn't believe me, these white boys. They were just like, that's not, and somebody phoned, because Philip told me later. He was like, I got this really weird phone call to check if I was. So anyway, Aggie wanted me to give a little bit of background. Sorry? Okay. So I think the best way for me to sort of bring things into context for you is that I went to art school and I was not writing poetry. I was doing film and photography. And the reason I didn't write was people like Mary Oliver told me I was shit. It's true. Stephen Kramer, I didn't write until Bernadette Mayer, who was my friend's mom. She said, this is great. Come to read at my house. And that was how it happened. So the art school thing is the way I approach these books is it comes from there. It's like project ideas, like things that grasp me, and then I become obsessed. And what I produce then, it used to be multimedia installations or photographic exhibitions, but now they're books. So I think the one consistent thing you can find with each of my books is that they're not consistent in that way, in that traditional lit sort of way. Of course, they're all my voice, but it depends what I'm obsessed with at the moment. So when I was writing this book, I was obsessed with the idea of a primordial language. I was obsessed with Indo-European roots, which I was studying. I was obsessed with the idea of the Tower of Babel. And I wanted to create something that had never been heard or written, in that flush of my 20s. So that's why this book has come out again, because it's all the things that people are looking at now. So the audience for it wasn't born. And I've been finding that a lot. So I don't usually do so much talking, but Aggie does want us to. So I'm going to begin with a poem that I wrote for Bernadette Mayer when she had her stroke and was, in a bad way. Subfask. Nothing is sharp at 6 a.m. but the blinding sting of the sunrise in the irises. Jonathan Sider. Doctor, the morphine hurts me. Daughter, the morphemes must be divided into dulcets, packaged into tidy wads of embolalia, for the grimace comes to wait at the foot of my head a little while longer. Doctor, I am petrified of the maquette in the Elmira. Dodger, desist, I am dizzy, desirous of perpetual languor, wearing my wig of bluebells I shake my musty arms at. I must eke out this facade of nervous nurses and Dalmatian wards grown feral in denominations of 10 swollen tangos and 7 tangerines. Insistent Will zum Leben decides to take me for a constitutional amongst the eaves of thought. Negative G-force makes me wretch. The ace of knaves is uncovered from amongst the shrubbery. A dubious pleasure, this anabolic frolic from the start. Hi-ho, these guys are end of mission. Following on all fours, tales of the unexpected, not to you, but to your incision. A few pennies, chinkling change left over in case the elan returns ego. I cannot complain. Drambuie, I must confess, on the brink of penury to indulge in. Nothing short of fabulous. She loved Drambuie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through like a little medley, a summer medley, an Eton mess of my poems. So I'm going to start with some of these and then I'm going to sprinkle some of those. This is one of my favorite ones, Tribunal. Fortune arrives wedded by the bell. I cannot calm her down. She screams of an abscess in her gums. I tell her to sit on the bench and drink some tea. My friend has engaged the rain to play at his funeral. He says not to worry. The band will be along shortly. In the basket are June bugs waiting to pounce on picnickers, hungry for egg salad sandwiches and pickled herring. A congress of dervishes is gathering under the silver birches whilst bankers die of botulism in the park. Overhead in the elm tree, one scarlet tanager starts to sing, announcing a Chopin race. The wizened organ grinder lurches a scherzo, tap dancing on the green, bearing his gums in a smile, leaking at the sky. A plastic hand reaches out of the perambulator and looks at me askance. I have no milk, so I ask the vegetarian Sinhalese next to me, does he have any? Mother runs over with a bag of durians and a chocolate cigar, gives us a dirty look and pops out her breast, veined like Stilton. And I wonder, perhaps breasts do become cheese after a time. So one more poem from here, and I want to read, because Kimberly talked about the mad dance. So I've got a mad dance poem as well. You know how it is, you're like, oh, I'm going to read that, and then you don't know where it is in the book. Just, yeah. So, yeah. Oh, and so my, I now, after 20 years of explaining myself, who are you, what are you, where do you come from? Now I'm just sort of like, I'm a global citizen, yeah, mixed race, you know, but the sort of white side of my family are Northern and South Yorkshire and Sheffield and Barnsley, where I have a whole bunch of aunties. They're very cute and I love them. And so I was always obsessed with the accent. And I didn't grow up around them, but the accent. So this poem is in honor of Northern Abacus. On the most exalted throne in the world, nothing but your arse, Montaigne. A whole lot of prattle and beef. The suckling it will let to rain terror on the supper table, it were. The funniest little black thing you ever sat eyes on, and what a howling and what a moaning comes from the deaf Dalmatian, not a dog, but a right cow it were. A twirling that's tail till we's be right dizzy. Plenty of work to go a roaming in the streets for idle hands there be. No use pretending to be afeard, Martha. Curly hair be the death of virtue. The time is getting over for you. If you ain't guessed by now who your father is, then you never will. It right lies in his eyes, melancholia in his spleen, frail fancy he's a riding his hobby towards you, that has gunned your life. Me pale, wee eily, crede, put you them their corsets on and bustle. Queen Mab and the Laidly Worm will come a-knocking. Eftsoons for the St. Vitus dance of the crow moon. Mind your humours now, be pure and clean. Don't want no bloods, just the frenzied, the mad and mean. Silly puss, sluts are loathsome to fairies. So yeah, I mean, imagine, you know, you're sitting there, you're a student of poetry and you've written that and you're like, who the fuck's gonna publish that? You know, but here I am with my second edition, babes. So fuck you, Wobble Vomit. So we're gonna get into the other thing I've always been obsessed with is is trance, and the different states of trance and the different states that poets have, especially in the South Asian, in the Urdu literary tradition, there's a word, it's hal, state. So I've always been obsessed with that idea that where do we go when we are writing poetry, because nobody as yet knows, none of us can answer where these poems come from. It is a liminal space. And so I've been called a poet of the liminal and all these, sort of things. But at the end of the day, I just, I was a raver as well, like in the 90s, So yeah, I mean, poetry is a trance. Poetry is a trance. So these are where I completely sort of got into that idea. So this is from Nocturnes, and they were published in an anthology for Francis Crook, who is another extraordinary poet. From Nocturnes, 1. When the clip-clopping of the hooves of miniature horses on a tiny paved stretch, the fluttering of a ribbon tied to the post of a street sign, the settling of today's rain on the grass, on the leaves slipping off into the soil, the man naked who appears in the window across the street, the flickering blue of a television screen in another window, the march of pleasure seekers on a Friday night, yourself in your own body, the image of a clock on the wall, the lingering aroma of foods prepared this afternoon, the now. When it evades you, drop to the ground, press an ear up against it, soothe your cheek on the dirt, and you will hear the song of the atom before it splits, the last words of a star before it implodes into blackness, the music of the rings of Saturn, the drum beats of the dinosaur before he became extinct, the sigh of the door being sealed in the tomb of Nefertiti, the hush of Lucifer as his wings were clipped, the murmuring of the night when day threatens it, and the steady, mounting laughter of the world when it is told it is going to end. 2. So these are all nocturnes. Do you know what it is like, night after night, to run on the seabed of your own imaginings, to be rifled through like hands searching through pockets, looking for forgotten money? To cast a tapestry of shadows each night on walls that care to sleep now, but you can only bleak now? Do you know what it's like to walk on water and grasp for arms to hold you, to watch murders of people you do not know, to see a face of an angel? Would you rush into traffic and take the chance of losing your very, very life? Can you pretend for a split of a second that a tree is you, a tentacle is you, the soft pad on the paw of a cat is you, the hair on the floor of a barber shop is you, a pile of rotting leaves is you, rainwater slicking the streets is you, sugar in a stranger's cup of coffee 800 miles away is you. You are a car smoldering on the highway. You are the highest star looked upon from above. You are a mountaineer asphyxiating from lack of oxygen on Mount Everest. An insect crawling on the page is you. Every wheel turning is you. A woman screaming, giving birth is you. A homeless man fainted on the street from hunger is you. An anthill, all its convoluted passageways is you. And you are also the ant, the Andes, the Himalayas, the Alps, the restitution of this night remembered. The cars careening on highways, the telephone poles, the underground sewage system, the waste of human lives gurgling, every drop of blood flowing in every artery, every vein in every living body, in every town, in every city, in every country is yours. Every dead body buried in the earth is you. Every heart beating is you. Every slow chant is you. Every muttering in disturbed sleep, every eye opening, every foot touching the earth, treading the surface every hand holding another hand, every tooth biting, tearing, chewing, grinding, gnawing, every throat gulping, every taste bud on every tongue, tasting another tongue, dead skin falling off every body, new skin growing every day. Pieces of you lost in the sea fall to the seabed and are planted. You become an anemone, cucumber. Your hair is plankton, your limbs seaweed. Your eyes are the light of the noctiluca, carnivorous. Your heart is the green dragon, rising up to meet the golden orb in the crepuscular dawn. Whew. Yeah, these things are hard to read too, you know. So you write them, but then, you know, when you got to read them, you got to be prepared to read them. You know what I mean? Ooh, I'm out of frame. Who are all these people? That was one of my favorite things. That I love Aggie's introductions, and I've told many people this, that I had come for the Sheffield thing. I remember she came on and she just looked around and she was like, "Who are all you people?" That's the best. Okay. So now I'm gonna change the beat a bit, and we'll slow down a bit, and we'll add some space, because I think it's important to mutate and change and go where our obsessions take us, and you know, as Aggie was showing you, and I'll. This was actually very exciting, and I'll talk about this, and maybe we can end with that. Yeah, it's all quite heavy, you know, so let's pace ourselves. Ghosting. After I died, I was like an aspiration, mere notes for a person. I had no visage, no form. After you killed me, I gathered form by paying attention to each moment embossed in consciousness, like plucking one tiny berry off one tiny stalk at a time to build a pyramid. A kilogram of berries ready to be extracted for elixir to infuse us with vitality. In the dark of winter, when all is same, dead and cold. That's how I became more than the wisp of potential. That's how I came back into form. And that refers to being left by my husband with a 1-year-old. They're all true. Now some little fragments. All together we make up an ocean. The activities of our lives are the waves. We roar, we whisper, we climb such immense heights that surfers ride for sport on the innermost curvature of the topmost curl. Sometimes, as we are carrying out the important business of doing waves, we forget to just be the ocean and ensure all the creatures who need us, who live deep within the depths of the watery habitat and deep down within the earth sands, are okay, are managing, are safe, and haven't been spat out, washed up helplessly on the shores. Okay. So yeah, this is a bit, I don't know what it is. What if I am the moon? Why must I not speak of my body? It is all I have that you can see. I hear it. It talks to me. You need to listen to bodies. They explain it all to you in a language that is only yours. You can't feign interest either. It will travel to talk to you. from your right tibia, a twang unlistened to grows. The best language is silence, silent appendix, silent elbow, silent ribs, silent cilia. But when the heart speaks a language different, your eternal music, you better listen. It is in its inferences and gestures that your death lies with your life. If a toe breaks on a foot and no one is there to hear it, is it broken? I want to know, where do you hide your body? I want to see you must see my body. You don't know. What if I am the moon? The moon in extraordinary pain, a moon that breaks and dies ad nauseum. Would you not listen if the moon wanted to tell you of her pain? Okay, so okay, let's talk a little bit about this, and then I'll end with something else, perhaps. So after many years of creating books, which were, manuscripts typeset, put into poetic forms, I found myself, because of my own physical sort of issues, which are plentiful. I also had an autism diagnosis last year after, spending a lifetime wondering, like, what the fuck was wrong with me. Like, that is a hallmark of autism, is you spend your life wondering what's wrong with you. And all sorts of things. So I started just wanting to, and also as my rebellion against the machine, I started just writing with ink. I'm obsessed with ink and fountain pens. I always have been. And I like getting the ink on my fingers and stuff. So I started just writing my poems on paper, and it took a different form. And then when people would ask me to submit things, because this happens after you've been writing for a while, people just ask you to submit things. It's brilliant, they're like, so that whole like hard graft that you do where you're submitting, it changes. Maybe 10, 12 years. That's not long. People are just like, hey, can you submit? And you're like, cool. So, but I went a bit further and I said, I'll submit only if you promise that I'm not typing anything up. I need you to just publish it as ink on paper. Now that obviously wouldn't have flown earlier on, but it was all right. But it was also because it's part, as I said, I'm always doing new stuff. So it became part of my creative practice. So they agreed. So there's 2 or 3 anthologies that have these handwritten ink on paper poems of mine. And then someone commissioned, it was No Matter in Manchester, there's a poetry group, they commissioned a poem. And then Emma saw that poem. And Emma is a visual artist as well as a writer, which is very cool for us as poets, because she has that, Rachel and have that sensibility. She was like, I saw that, it was really cool, and I was like, yes! You see, I took that risk though. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I took that risk and I wanted to do it more than anything else. Also my eyesight was going, it was going down. It was very hard for me to deal with. I just couldn't deal with screens. So I have macular degeneration, which my grandfather, went blind at some point. So yeah. But so what emerged then was this beautiful, sitting on tables with rulers and graph paper. And I knew exactly what I was going to do. So there's a whole performance that goes with this book that was then designed, where I have a Fisher-Price tape recorder, and I have a kid's voice changer, and I have paint on my face. I look like the Day of the Dead sort of, and yeah, so it's a whole thing. So I'm not going to tamper with that. But so I was interested in this idea of creating visual forms that sort of mimicked like these old labels of Victorian like pharmaceuticals and soaps and things like that. And this one phrase kept coming to me, we regret to inform you. Have you noticed that that phrase is it's so symbolic of like late capitalist sort of, it's how they extract, the gram of your soul. Like, it's like we regret, like you don't fucking regret nothing. Like, you don't regret nothing, but it's like, so in the performance, I say it over and over and over again. We regret to inform you, and that's what. And of course, it's a lovely skull. So and that's what I love about Kimberly too. This, oh my God, there's no shortage of skulls and skeletons. It's sort of like talismanic, emblematic, things like that. And I'll read one. I will read one. This is a very, very, very fun. This was a dream come true. I was very grateful for this. And as I was saying earlier, and also I was able to make my anarchist statements much more clearly than I felt I could. And this is my favorite one. Abolish everything. The constructs are lies. The longer they live, the longer they solidify. A bestiary of the grotesque. So, I wrote them all. They were all these little, it's like all those little scraps on your pieces of paper. And then, so I'm going to finish actually with this. This is a good one to finish. I've spent a lot of time, I'm a trained meditation teacher, and I've spent most of my life studying ancient manuscripts and ancient schools of thought. And in fact, had I been an ancient person, it would be much better for me, frankly. Contemporary living doesn't suit me. I'm happy with like ancient manuscripts and the smell of them and so the stages of alchemy, there's these different stages, and fire is very important. I'm not going to go into all of that. I'll just and also I was very interested in these old like illuminated, I wanted to create like a contemporary illuminated manuscript. I drew all of this. It just says Void Song, Void Song, Void Song, Void Song, because that's the title, Void Song. I was thinking of like bits of things that from a future past, a future that, where they just find bits of things, and these are the bits they'll find. The thing about fire is if you succumb willingly to it, ratify its assault, deny it nothing, yield to its charm, desire extermination of self, invoke the cinder, the ash, the burn, vindicate it, deny it nothing, fuck it to bits, inflame, immolate, excoriation. First you cook. Does fire reach each organ at different times? Does that fleshy monstrosity, the heart, first cauterize, then come fucking bust? Yeah, let it flicker you as you smolder. Burn, baby, burn the fuck up. You say yes to all deaths now. I want it, want it, want it, want it, want it. Tell it you want it. Complete this ritual at exactly the right time, X, Y axis, and you may well find that all you lose are the binds. Puascose nel foco ce li effire. Then he hid himself in the fire that refines them. Thank you.
Do you mind if I don't say anything? Because it's quite difficult to follow this. So the open mingling time is kicking in now. And don't disappear, guys, because is this cash only? Or?
And we can do like PayPal.
So you can.
Well, you just email. John will sort it out.
Yeah, I've got
He's got a plan.
I've got, not a very good one, but I've got,
Because I might have to PayPal.
yeah, no, we've got a possible PayPal.
We've
one.
got-
And Sascha, are you doing cash
It's
or?
the same, we've got our PayPal.
They've got machines, they've got machines.
Okay, so anyway, basically, you don't need to have, because sometimes we say, oh, I don't have any
Emma's got a
cash,
machine,
I
yeah.
can't buy any books. But actually, you can buy books if you've got a card. So please do come and mingle. The only thing, guys, is I need to call the restaurant because we are well late.
I'll know by now that you're always pretty
I just thought,
I know you.
I just thought 2 bloody hours is gonna be enough, but these two, it's like.
What's that? You told us to talk so much.
Anyway, thank you, guys. Thank you.